co-reporters and newbies. In this week's episode of Kailyn Lowry's Coffee Convos podcast, she opens up about a car accident that she was recently in. The children were in the car with her, and she claims that she was rear-ended. But, just based off of her driving record on the show, I strongly suspect that there was some sort of texting or FaceTiming while driving that happened, because Kail is probably one of the biggest offenders on the show for FaceTiming and texting while driving, even with her children present. I actually have a video on this in particular because it did get pretty disturbing in the second last season of Teen Mom 2. Like, sometimes both of her hands would be off of the wheel at the same time. Anyway, after the accident, she called her ex-husband Javi to help her out, which I found kind of interesting because, she didn't call the police. She called Javi first, which goes to show how kind of isolated she is in the world, right? Like, you don't have a best friend that you would call, because just recently on the prior week's episode of one of your podcasts, Kail, you said that all three of your baby daddies had your number blocked. So how did it change so quickly from like this level of hate to you now calling him first, after our car accident? I did find that interesting. You don't have a best friend, and then we know that she doesn't have a relationship with either parent, but like, there's literally no one else in the world that you would have called, maybe even the police, outside of Javi. I found that interesting. She said that Javi ultimately sent his dad over to help, and then afterwards she did file a police report. And then later on in the episode, she really drags her baby daddy, Chris Lopez, again. And I think this time it was in response to Chris going on his podcast begging Kail to stop talking about him because it's only hurting the children. And he also claimed that she was not telling the full story about the health insurance for the kids. Remember, he says that he's got some sort of health insurance that he could rope the kids into. And Kail says, not so fast. First of all, she doesn't even know if it's legal for the kids to be on Chris's health insurance, which appears to be some sort of medicaid or whatever, when Kail already has private insurance and makes too much for them to be on that. She says that they would be stealing a spot from a kid who actually can use that because their parents don't have the means to pay for private health insurance for them. One thing that I really liked about her dragging of Chris, and I'm going to play it for you guys in a second, is how she brings up the fact that Chris is college educated. He's got a university degree in kinesiology, and he's choosing not to work. It's not that he's unable to work and provide for his two children and one on the way. He's just choosing not to. I said, good for you, Kail. At that point, let it all hang out. And she also accuses him of not paying child support for the kids. Take a listen.
It was because I was responding to what he publicly said. I don't care about the timing. I don't care about his trip. I don't care about that. For the last month or so, I have been requesting money from Chris for medical because he has not paid or tried to pay towards his child support order that is already in place. And I believe it's been in place about 3 years, maybe a little bit longer. He is ordered a set amount for one child, and he is not ordered for a creed. So Chris and his mom did.
So there it is. She's saying that Chris, first of all, has not been paying his child support anyway. And then now she's about to get into how him and his mom have been trying to convince her to put the kids also on Chris's state-sponsored or federally sponsored, I don't know, health insurance. But she, she's going to say why she does not want to do that. She doesn't know if it's illegal. Here we go.
Try to convince me to let him put them on his insurance. However, Chris is on state insurance, and he put Lux, I believe, on his state insurance without my knowledge, but I have access to healthcare. Like, I have access and I have my own private policy. So I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that the state doesn't give insurance for people who have access to that, which Lux does. So I declined. I think that state insurance should be given to somebody who actually needs it. And
very interesting. I do believe that she has a point there. Why would Lux, who has a rich mom, need to be on state-sponsored health insurance? He's got a mom who makes a lot of money on a TV show, and he's also got a both of his parents are college educated. He's got a college educated father who could very easily go out there and make some money. He's making babies, but he can't make money. Come on. Then Kail follows it up by going into how people claim that Chris shouldn't really have to pay anything because he doesn't make what Kail makes. And this is where she really lets it pop off. And you know what? She made me think about it in a different way. She goes on about how Joe and Javi do not make what she makes either, yet they're out there grinding to provide for their children. And they're not college educated the way that Chris is. And they're still out there doing a lot better than he is for their own kids. Here it is.
And I can't believe that excuse is invalid to me because Joe doesn't make what I make. Javi doesn't make what I make. And let's not forget about the fact that Chris has a bachelor's degree. Javi and Joe do not have degrees. And Chris chooses to not work at all. He doesn't carry a job, but the other two do. Not only do they have 50-50 custody, but Javi and I split finances down to 50-50 for lunch money. Right. And Javi doesn't make what I make. But he doesn't question it, doesn't second guess it, it just is what it is. I mean, I don't.
She's right? Like at the end of the day, she has out-earned every single one of her baby daddies. And yet 2 out of 3 are still out there stepping up to provide for their children. Why is Chris the exception? So next up, she drags Chris for living at home and getting all of these government benefits despite being in the position to make his own money.
It just is what it is. I mean, I don't understand how you can make an excuse for someone who literally chooses not to work. He chooses, I mean, last I knew, he was living at home. He's 27 years old, living at home with his mom, collecting EBT, which is food stamps, and state insurance by choice, because he's choosing not to work. So to me, in my opinion, that should be, well, 1, that's not fair. And 2, you don't get to take that away from somebody who actually needs it and is working and is trying to make ends meet.
See, I completely agree with her on all fronts. However, I think another big criticism that she gets, which is 100% valid, is that this, at the end of the day, is who she chose to father not 1, but 2 of her children. This is who he was when she got with him. This is who she was when she had the second child with him, especially. They were both still students when they got pregnant, but after they graduated and stuff a couple years later, he was living with his mom or his grandma. He was not working and he was collecting all of these things, and she was still running around town chasing him and getting pregnant by him again. Do I think that Kail would willingly have a third one by him if he wanted to? Yeah. Anyway, with all of that being said, I think Kail really dropped the mic on Chris at this point. I don't think that there's any coming back from this on Chris's part, because she really laid it all out there. You know, he would have to answer for why it is that, you know, out of the 3 baby daddies, the one college educated one cannot properly provide for his 2 kids, you know, and he really doesn't have a proper response for that. Even if he didn't want to use his degree, he very clearly has the intelligence to go out and do something else. You know, he can get into real estate the way that Joe has. It's a very lucrative and respectable profession. Like, he could do a lot of different things, and he's just choosing not to, and that is quite disturbing. And you know, what is the answer to not paying child support? There is no excuse for that either. You know, I think Chris has a lot of soul searching to do, especially before this 3rd child comes, because listen, at this point, these kids didn't ask to be here, you know, and they very much wholly depend on both of their parents to provide for them. And obviously Kail is doing her part, and Chris seems to be slacking, you know, and it's sad that 2 kids has not motivated him to do more with his life. Clearly the 3rd has motivated him to at least try to make money on the Teen Mom 2 show, but I wonder what else he will do beyond that, because, you know, honestly, Teen Mom 2 and Teen Mom OG both seem to be on their last legs, so I think that he needs to be a lot craftier than what he's been thus far. Guys, how do you feel about Kail ripping Chris a new one on this week's episode of her Coffee Convos podcast? Is she right, or is she right? Make sure to let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and as usual, we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.